We welcome you to the USA Ultimate Triple Crown Tour. In the first leg of the tour, the US Open of Ultimate here in Blaine, Minnesota. We're at the National Sports Center, and this mixed semifinal features Minneapolis Dragon Thrust, the hometown team, against Philadelphia Amp, the 2 seed in the tournament, who went through pool play undefeated. The other half of the bracket, Boston Slow White and Seattle BFG. BFG coming off the World Championship, trying to make it 2 for 2 to start the 2018 season. It's so great to be with you alongside Ian Toner. I am Evan Lepler. The Triple Crown Tour is underway. And for these two teams, they both kind of have unfinished business, but you think they're trending in different directions.
Absolutely. These are dynasties of the mixed division. I think AMP is trending in a more positive upward direction. They made the national finals for the first time in program history last year. Dragon Thrust missing the Final Four for the first time in recent memory last season. Lots to prove, lots at stake today.
I think Dragon Thrust is hopeful to prove today that they belong.
Terror downfield, perhaps the top receiving threat on this entire team. She's an accomplished player in her own right, having won gold medals at the U23 Beach Championship and World Ultimate and Guts Championship levels. She's going to be making plays downfield for this team today.
She'll be going up against some former national team teammates on the other side. Philadelphia Amp, two sides of a coin, and they had a great year, and they also came up short by 1 point at Nationals, by 1 point at the Pan American Championships. But I think a lot of people consider this team one of the favorites, and the big reason why they added Nikki Spiva.
What an addition to bring onto your team, a World Games alternate, an experienced veteran. He's world-class talent, adds a new level of throwing dynamism to their offense, and takes the burden off Carolyn Normile, bringing some more punch to that offense on both O-line and the D-line offense.
A new level of fashion, too, with those yellow pants. It's been a rainy weekend. It's been on and off. Right now, it's off. Hopefully it stays that way. Overcast but pleasant. The US Open of Ultimate semifinals start next. Dragon Thrust and AMP to get us going in just a moment. The USA Ultimate US Open Club Championships are presented by Spin Ultimate, providing custom team uniforms and ultimate apparel since 2007. Visit Spin Ultimate on the web at spinultimate.com. And by Discraft, the official disc of USA Ultimate, now available at Midwest Meyer stores and over 2,000 retailers nationwide. Minneapolis Dragon Thrust with a starting 7 of Erica Bacon, Jacob Lean, Brian Schoenrock. Strings has been playing forever and still makes plays. Tavis Layton, a Minneapolis rookie, with Kat Ritzman, a second-year player, Sarah Mextroth, the veteran, and Caleb Denacor, who's played in the men's division very successfully, moves into the mixed division, a speedster for Dragon Thrust. And for Philly Amp, Ruse, Shields, Linda Morse, Sean Mott, a new addition since the World Championships for Philly, with Kelsey Devlin, Nico Lake, and the dynamic Nikki Spiva, who's played all over in the men's division, played for mixed U.S. national teams, and one of the stars, superstars in the sport. In the low 70s, overcast, not precipitating at the moment. It has been raining much of the morning, but no thunderstorms since late last night when there was some violent thunder and lightning here in the Twin Cities. But we are good to go. You see Coach Gross, the newest face on this Minneapolis team, replacing Jake Henderson, who'd been at the helm for most of this club's franchise history for all 3 championships, 2013, 2014, and 2015. But so far, so good. Dragon Thrust got a great win to start things yesterday as Nikki Spiva shoots it deep immediately, and it's knocked away. Well defended by Brian Schoenrock. I think we've seen Nikki Spiva huck and complete so consistently and successfully that we see any shot he throws and we think that was a good decision. In your mind, was it?
At the point of release with a defender like Schoenrock chasing down that deep shot, obviously our hindsight is 2020. I would always be absolutely certain before testing strings deep.
And it looked like that one was deflected on the mark. Linda Morse may have gotten a piece of it on the release.
Surprising turnovers from a couple of our players to watch and stars on both teams to get this point started.
Floating it, testing Mextroth, and she was close enough to get the block on Morse. Little shaky start here for both teams. Bacon's throw flutters and eventually intercepted by Sean Mott, the lefty who's previously played in the men's division with Philly Patrol, and his swing overshoots Bobby Roos. It is a swirling wind down there, and it's been a factor all weekend long.
So I've played in this stadium multiple times before, Evan, and I think this is something that we're going to have to keep harping on with all of the games that we've got to watch tonight. But when you're playing in a stadium like this, there's no true upwind, downwind phase. There's no true crosswind phase. There are wind tunnels with alleys of wind opening up.
Mextroth looking for Denacor, and he's unable to keep it in bounds. Spiva there defensively. And the interesting thing about this stadium, Ian, is on one side you've got the typical stadium stands, and on the other it's completely wide open. Spiva making sure Denacor didn't have a chance to greatest it back. And Patrick Sherlock, the coach of Philly Amp, was telling his team before the game, hey, the wind on this near sideline could be very different from the wind on the far sideline. And
absolutely
I think
right.
We're noticing that early. Dragon Thrust went 4-1 through their pool, losing a tight game against Seattle BFG. The world champs pulled away late in that one. Meanwhile, Philly Amp, a perfect 5-0 in pool play coming into this one here this afternoon. Looking to the end zone, coming back for the disc was Schoenrock. And Dragon Thrust begins with a circuitous break. 1-0 Minneapolis.
Not the cleanest start to the game for either team, but Dragon Thrust is going to be happy to take this break and start this game off on a high note for their D-line offense, and they can thank a lot of this break to the efforts of Brian Schoenrock earning that block on Spiva's first deep shot, and then that incredible snag over Mott in the end zone.
A couple of Amp's new players, Mott and Spiva, are quickly going to realize how impactful Brian String Schoenrock is in this mixed division. Kat Ritzman, one of the players that John Gross mentioned who's really stepped up. There are 5 players on this Dragon Thrust team that will play today that came from Winnipeg. We're playing Masters Worlds this week. And on Friday, the first day of this tournament, they didn't have any of those players. We're talking about veterans like Josh Hemish, Pat Niles, Martha Lean, Jamie Glader, Sierra Barton, James Hron, who has returned to the Dragon Thrust roster this year, a former superstar. Not active, although he is here, was not planning to be here, so he's not going to be on the field. But the younger player stepping up for Dragon Thrust was the story of yesterday.
Yeah, despite all of those absences and key contributors missing, Dragon Thrust still went 3-0, besting the defending national champions.
Trissolini sending Spiva, who adjusts to it well, guarded by Denacor. Amp leaving Spiva out there and sending him downfield initially. And now he throws to the end zone, and it is incomplete. Trissolini went up for it. Normile also nearby. It's a turnover.
That's a same third shot, narrow window, tight margin of separation. I don't know if that was a strategic decision. You know, maybe the Amp offense has been given instruction from its leaders.
Kat Ritzman fires deep again. Caleb Denacor runs it down, and it's 2-0 Dragon Thrust. Ritzman in the zone right now to start this semifinal.
Well, Evan, I don't think either of us expected this start. Dragon Thrust has wasted no time attacking deep after turnovers, shooting deep shots against world-class level defenders, and their risks have been rewarded and well calculated. They've got a 2-break lead right off the bat.
Caleb Denacour with the score. And how about Kat Ritzman in her second year out of the University of Delaware? It's a conversation we had a lot at the World Championships, Ian, talking about how some players in their first year on a team, they're not totally well known. Takes them a while to find their role and for their teammates to understand exactly what they're good at. And players often make a huge jump from year 1 to year 2 with a team. And I think that's what we're seeing from Kat Ritzman. A look at John Gross, who's been involved in Minneapolis Ultimate for 17 years, starting at CDH high school, played mixed in high school, played at St. John's University, coached YCC Mixed, the Minneapolis Superior team, and living in Madrid. And then Jake Henderson, his wife was expecting their second child, a boy named Caleb, born in the past month, as Amp turns it over again off the hands of Normile. And they approach Gross sometime in the spring, March, April. We talked about the fact that while it's infusing a new voice into this organization that's been around for a while, he also, because he's been around Minneapolis Twin Cities Ultimate, has relationships with so many of the players on the team. So it was kind of a natural fit. We see Jacob Lean get shaken up, and he's in some pain holding that right foot.
Hard to tell if he got cleated.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the worst. That part of your ankle bone that's completely unexposed when you choose to wear those soccer or football player cleats.
Calling a strip of it, I've learned from US Open. I thought I got the disc.
Okay, are we going to treat it as a contest, or is he going to come to me? Okay, Marlon, it was not a foul. He did get the disc before you had established possession. So it's going to be Amp's disc.
Injury.
Yep, and then Dragon's an injury. Are you going to stay in?
Yep.
Okay.
We can just go as called.
Okay, I'm going to bring the disc back to black. Never mind.
It stays it.
Yeah. Okay, so tap the ground on D, and then people will start.
No, we're good.
And Lean is allowed to stay in the game after that injury call because there was contact involved. If he had called that injury after no contact, he would have had to step off the field.
Good to see him all right. It's one of the annual traditions of Ultimate, Ian, seeing what kind of bad facial hair that Jacob Lean has brought to the table this season. This year he's I don't know if it's an A+, but it's a solid A performance, and it's early in the year. Up the line, Amp's on the board. That's Spencer DeRoos, who's the new youngest player on this Amp roster. Just 21 years old, will be a senior at Cornell this fall. And finally, after 3 chances to hold, Philadelphia Amp finally converts on offense.
Yeah, as you were saying, Evan, maybe third time was the charm there. I still didn't like the way that O-line point initiated for them. That was a really tough, narrow, sharp inside shot that forced a really tough grab that Normile ultimately couldn't make. But perhaps this offense is starting to settle down. We saw them using their space well, attacking with their strong handlers after they got the disc back.
What a star Carolyn Normile was at College Nationals this spring in Milwaukee, leading the Pittsburgh Danger program into the first ever semifinal. Of course, fans of the club division knew how good she was, helping Amp get to the finals at Club Nationals last year in Florida. So far this weekend, Amp a perfect 5-0, and it was a lopsided game against the 2 seed in the pool. Slow White, we knew they would have some growing pains. They're mixing in a bunch of new pieces. Their roster has changed as much as any from Worlds 2 weeks ago to the US Open now, but that was still a humbling result for Marshall Goff's team, Slow White. Well, Amp's finally on defense, and we see the Dragon offense for the first time. Charlie Schuweiler picking up the disc, working with Austin Lean.
Some of these defensive zone looks coming awfully close to forcing double teams.
Well, two-handed shoving backhand from Adams to Schuweiler. Now to the middle of the field, Emily Regan. Emily's younger sister, Greta, joining Dragon Thrust this year. The Regan sisters, part of this 4-1 run through pool play at the US Open. Interesting, Amp has matched up here, but you got some cross-gender matchups because they called fire after starting in a zone. So Amp adjusting as Austin Lean finds himself wide open on the doorstep. Schuweiler throws and goes, covered well by Amp's Ryan Flamberg, and the turnover in the backfield gives Philly a shot, unleashing the backhand Stephen Ing, and it's Steve Rosso about 20 yards shy of the end zone for Amp.
He's got all the time in the world, no mark closing in on him.
It can be unnerving to have the disc and have no one marking you. Eric Nardelli. Near to the end zone, Natalie Bova.
Three now. Good.
Rising stall count, but something opens up, and there was a pick involved. Unlike basketball, you can't set screens downfield. If you do, the play stops and it comes back.
Go back to where the pick happened. Who's ace?
Pick happened, yes.
Dog.
You ready? Okay, whenever you're ready, on 6.
Near the sideline, he was out of bounds.
20!
Nardelli did not land in. And right there, I think a lot of credit goes to the Dragon Thrust defender, Neil Hankey, who did not surrender that open side pylon to Nardelli, forced the around throw, and that made it much more difficult.
It's a much smaller window, and when you're the receiver attacking that disc, you gotta be thinking not only about making the grab, but also about trying to tap your toes inbounds, and as you saw, Nardelli couldn't finish there.
Just a little off balance, it was enough. Missed opportunity. Going for the big bid, Rosso came up empty. There's Greta Regan and Austin Lean, who fires over the stack to the middle of the field, nearly a collision. Hankey and Nardelli both emerge unscathed. If anything, Nardelli had it, got stripped. Amp keeps the disc.
You see a different look here from this Amp D-line offense. The O-lines from Amp have started with side stacks. There's been a little bit of spread.
Deep shot goes up.
Yes, Rosso!
Rosso again. To the end zone, the wind takes it a bit near the back line. It's incomplete.
You're good, Rock. You're good plan. You're good plan.
Turnover on the end zone, Luke.
Well, once again, we see the challenges of the wind rearing their head. That flick getting popped up in the wind and hanging a lot higher than I believe Rosso would have liked. To be sure, the receiver got his hand on it, but that's a difficult catch, difficult angle, variable weather conditions. Tough for these receivers to deal with.
Hankey, cross-field hammer. Well done, the Lean. What do you think of this amp zone defense?
You know, I think like any zone, it's done a decent job of preventing Dragon Thrust from executing any simple play calls that might dial up a 2-throw or 3-throw goal. Got to see more of it to see how it can be effective throughout the rest of this game.
Can Dragon Thrust be patient and use 5 or 10 throws to get to the end zone from about 20 yards out? That'll work. On the money for Marty Adams. Charlie Schuweiler delivers it there, and after Amp had a couple chances to break, Dragon Thrust holds.
Well, as you mentioned, Evan, Amp, they've got to be kicking themselves after being so close to the goal line, but once Dragon Thrust worked it into the red zone, a nice job of finding that back corner. Yes, there were Amp defenders there, but Adams has the size and speed advantage, and he's going to be able to attack that disc first.
Austin Lean, a rock on that point for Dragon Thrust. Longest tenured member of the team. 10 years on Dragon. And he's been calm in the backfield for pretty much all of them. Marty Adams, similar to Cat Ritzman, they were the two big speedsters that made plays as rookies last year. Adams and Ritzman now both in their second season. For this program that, you know, we forget, not only did they win 3 straight national titles, they also double peaked in 2014, winning the World Ultimate Club Championships in Lecco. And I think we talk, Ian, about how Philly Amp has the motivation of being so close last year and losing in the semis at Worlds. Well, Dragon has the motivation of not even having a chance to defend their world title by getting eliminated in quarters at Club Nationals last year. Couple turnovers out of the reach of the bidding Ritzman. Nico Lake with Schoenrock on the mark. To Devlin. Here's Spiva. He had Lake deep. Instead, he takes the under. And now Sean Mott looking long. Linda Morse in the end zone. Well done.
Well, I think Sarah Mextroth got caught either helping underneath or baiting that deep throw just a little too much. Thought she might be able to catch up. And Linda Morse is a great receiver. As we see Devlin working it up to Spiva. And this was nice organic flow from the Amp offense that we hadn't seen earlier in this game. So they could be coming into stride, getting their wheels under them and figuring out just how to execute their throws in these challenging, abnormal, gusty, swirly, windy conditions.
Well, if you include the World Championships, this is the 4th tournament of the season for Philly Amp. They played a one-day tournament in Philadelphia known as the Amp Invite, where they cross paths with the infamous Space Heater for the first time. We'll talk more about them in a bit. Losses to Space Heater and Alloy, a 1-point game against the mixed team from Pittsburgh on that June 16th date. And they played the Boston Invite the following weekend, went through that undefeated, wins over Slow White and Snake Country in the business end of the bracket there. And now Philly Amp 5-0 at the US Open. Closest game 15-11 against Steamboat. Love Tractor 15-9 to get things started yesterday morning as Lean shoots it deep, and he's going to want this decision back because it looks like it was intended for Amp Spencer DeRoos.
And I think Lean had eyes for the end zone, wasn't keeping his eyes on the other defenders in the stack, at the back of the stack who were peeling off. Great awareness by Roos.
Dragon Thrust so focused on denying the break that they gave the open side under to Ben Pellig. First touch for Raha Mozafari, the veteran-most member of Philly AMP. She and her husband, Patrick Sherlock, joined the team in 2006. Patrick transitioned to a coaching role in 2014. Raha has long been one of the bright lights in the mixed division. And now, if anything, Mozafari is overshadowed by all the young female talent that AMP has added the past few years. Luke Ryan comes down with it. Resets to Mozafari. Vacating the dump space opened things up for Ryan, who was injured last year at Nationals, didn't get to play much. That throw just under the reach of DeRoos. There's a well-timed poach by Carolyn Normile. Comes up with a block from the middle of the stack. And there's an even tougher catch by Normile. She's probably more known for her throws than anything, Ian, but we're seeing the athleticism and the maneuverability from the young Pittsburgh product. And a timeout taken on the goal line by Ben Pellig. A lot to digest from what we've just seen in this last point.
Well, we've seen a different AMP D-line offense that we saw earlier in this game. They're starting to get more comfortable with these conditions, and you mentioned the performance of Normile over the course of this year. It was tremendous to see her taking her team to their first ever semifinals appearance. Pittsburgh Danger falling to Colorado Colley on double game point.
Wild game that was interrupted midway through the first half by a lightning delay. Well, Minneapolis Dragon Thrust will try to play some defense here. They went 4-1. They were 3-0 yesterday. 15-10 over Mixtape, 15-9 over Storm, 15-6 over Germany Mixed on the showcase field last night, and then a 12-8 win over Public Enemy in round one this morning. A Public Enemy team that had some moments this weekend. We'll talk more about that. And then the loss to BFG. It's early, and we can talk more about this if we see BFG in the finals tomorrow, but is it too early to say that there's a changing of the guard in Seattle Mixed Ultimate? I mean, you had Mixtape winning the Triple Crown Tour last year. They fall short at Worlds. BFG steps in, and now BFG looking very strong at the U.S. Open. And there's the defense, but it was saved by Nico Lake. Was it up?
First things first.
Luke Ryan made the layout grab, or did he? See if it stands.
Okay. We have an uncontested foul committed by the defense. Did this affect your decision-making, that foul here? Okay. Would you like a ruling on this? No, we do not. Okay. So you agree to the sound. However, this uncontested foul here happened and affected his play. Therefore, the foul is upheld. It's coming here on stalling one.
That's about as good of a job as you could possibly do from an observing standpoint in a complicated situation. Like 9 different hypotheticals in the flow chart right there. So AMP keeps possession. There's a pick downfield.
Keep it up, Boston!
This would be a break for Philly AMP. Dragon Thrust currently is up 2 breaks, getting breaks in the first 2 points of the game, and nice adjustment there. That one clearly up. Luke Ryan hauls it in. And we're tied 3-all.
And Ryan's happy to atone for that earlier red zone turnover, seizing the opportunity given to him this time in the red zone. That's not an easy grab. You can see the wind getting under that bottom face of the disc and starting to push it further back towards the middle of the field. Great adjustment, and he attacks at exactly the right moment.
And it's been an emotional return to the field for both Luke Ryan, the goal scorer, and Ben Peleg, the goal thrower on that particular point. Both those guys were injured for most of the Nationals last year. Peleg tweaked his hamstring. The regional semifinals, making some plays that Patrick Sherlock says they needed him to make, but he only played 2 points all of Nationals. Meanwhile, Luke Ryan had a broken collarbone, also had some hamstring issues. Think about AMP. I mean, you could say this about every team, but they go to the finals, lose by 1 without 2 guys who are both real energy guys for this team. Have kind of helped to cultivate their fun, competitive, intense identity.
And you can't underestimate the contributions of those guys who continually raise the morale and push people to be focusing at all times.
So the Minnesota offense broken for the first time, back out there. Tyler Thomgreen, rookie on the team, to Ritzman. Pick downfield. Mextroth will keep the disc.
And on 1.
Great matchup here between Mextroth and Raha Mozafari.
I was just thinking, how many times have they gone head-to-head, either as national team teammates in AMP Dragon Thrust games through the years? There's a interception from Normile. Normile thought about breaking the mark. Erica Bacon did a nice job, forced the reset. This AMP team, there's Mextroth coming up with another block. Philadelphia lost a couple key players that were on the World Championship team on the team last year. Talking about Michael Ing, the Pittsburgh star, who's now playing for Temper in the men's division, and Alicia Dixon, who moved to Denver. Joining Molly Brown, the women's division. Nick Parifico, another guy who dealing with some injuries, but was a key guy for AMP for many years, now out in the Rocky Mountain area. Bacon, low throw, she wants that one back.
We talk about all of those roster changes. It's a great would you rather scenario, right? Would you rather have Mike Ing right now or Nikki Spiva right now? Or if you're thinking about the future of your program, would you rather have Mike Ing for the next 5 years?
This shot intended for Rob Robinson, and it's Schoenrock again roaming the deep space.
And that's no disrespect to Nikki Spiva, because he's still on the, you know, you could argue that he's still in the prime of his career. But it's, you can't get around the fact that Mike Ing has roughly 8 years on him and will be a major contributor for a longer period of time.
Well, at the World Championships, they did have both of them, Spiva and Ing. And Dragon Thrust calling a foul there. Robinson, make it Pano, wants to go to the observer immediately.
Okay, all right, Lennon, it's not a foul. This guy's here. 55, tap the ground.
I think the big switch for AMP since Worlds as they punch it in, that's another break, and we're back on serve at 4-3. they keep Nikki Spiva, they lose Mike Ing, but they gain Sean Mott. Now I asked Patrick Sherlock about the Mott-Ing comparison. He's like, well, they're very different players, but we're bummed to lose Michael, and we're happy to have Sean.
Right.
But that's,
as any coach would say.
Absolutely. But I think by the end of this year, Sean Mott could have a similar type of impact. Maybe not the same style of the way Ing throws his body around. But that's a break. Amp now 2 for 7 on break chances. Getting 2 in a row on the last couple of points. Trisolini picks up the assist. Seven points in this game, and we have not had a turnover-free hold from the offense. There have been 4 breaks. There have been 3 holds.
Can't say that surprises me given the conditions that we're dealing with. It's a little bit wet out. There's some gusty winds coming in and out of the stadium. But we're noticing these offenses start to get a little bit cleaner. Make a little bit of an adjustment between the previous O point and the next O point. I think we're getting closer and closer to a perfect O point in this game.
Not going to be this one. Ben Pellig make sure of that.
Ben Pellig there to make sure. Just over to Amp.
These teams have gone on some wacky runs against one another through the years. There was a game of the U.S. Open a couple years back when Amp led 7-1 and lost. I think there was another game that was 6 or 7-0. Dragon Thrust and Amp came back to win. They've had some great, great battles. And really kind of the beginning of Dragon Thrust Dynasty, if you can call it that, was in 2013 when Amp needed to beat Dragon by like 4 or 5 goals to win the pool, one of those point diff situations. And they had a pretty sizable lead. And then Dragon Thrust came back to not only take care of point diff, but also win the game. And some of the Dragon Thrust players have since said that was one of the games that kind of gave us the belief that we could do it. And went on to win 3 national titles and a world title. This deep shot looking to the end zone. Leighton is there. Good put from Mextra.
Well, it was only a matter of time before Mextra started to really put her imprint on this game. And we saw the great anticipation and closing speed, earning that block on the upline cut, and then judging the wind perfectly, putting just enough touch on that same third down the line deep shot. That is not an easy throw to execute.
Leighton, 23-year-old, out of Yale University, joining the Dragon Thrust team this year for the first time. Mextroth now 26 in her 7th year with the program. So 4-all, each team is broken twice. Winner of this game will face the winner of Slow White and BFG in the final tomorrow. Slow White and Amp were the 2 semifinal losers at the World Championships, and they both wish they had a little more time in the second half to make up those deficits. Extenuating circumstances a couple weeks ago in Southern Ohio with plenty of extreme weather forcing the semifinals inside about halfway through the games. It was a spectacle really unlike Ultimate has ever seen. And I think, Ian, as we've talked about the main stories from the World Championships, as Normile shoots it deep, and it's deflected and deed by Caleb Denicourt. The tournament became the bigger story than any particular single team storyline over the course of the week.
The tournament and the competitive circumstances that those players had to deal with. 1 minute, you're playing outside in gusty conditions. The next, your season is on the line with a 20-minute clock indoors on turf.
Well, conservation of greatness there. Tremendous grab by Ritzman, and then she threw it away.
Stay two! Stay two! Ready, cat, ready, cat, ready, cat. You're good now. Swing in middle. You're in, Tav. Neil, go, Neil, go!
Spiva looking to the end zone for Mott. There was certainly a collision, Mott and Ritzman colliding, but was there a foul call?
We have a foul called on Dragon. The foul. Nope.
It's uncontested.
I thought that was a dangerous play.
That surprises me.
There's a player in front of you. You went in the air.
We have an uncontested foul call down there, as well as a TNF.
I understand. I think.
Oof. You agree with the observer's rule of a dangerous play on Sean Mott?
Yeah. Yep. Sorry?
He doesn't agree.
No, it's his disc still. Right. So he's going to tap it on the ground here and then walk it to the front. I think you were next to her. Moved. Yep.
Let's go,
So
Money.
now that the observer has clarified everything for us, I do agree that it was a dangerous play on Sean Mott, but I also think the Dragon Thrust defender was entitled to that space. They were attacking that same space to maintain body position.
By the. Oh. Okay.
I don't think it should be Sean Mott's disc here.
This is staying with Am Sean Mott to put it in play.
Spiva near the sideline connects with Lake. Amp back in front by 1.
Amp 5, Dragon Thrust 4.
First assist for Nikki Spiva.
And we know he's got such a great arsenal of break throws. So dangerous when he's that close to the end zone. Sets up that throw with a little stretch out to the flick side, gets Caleb Denicourt's body weight moving one way, and then a nice little high release backhand over the shoulder after Denicourt's body weight has shifted. Going back to that Mott play where he was awarded the disc, I still, after that conversation, am not clear on who called the foul in the first place. Whether Mott called the foul on the defender or the defender called the foul on Mott coming in.
I think Mott called the foul on the defender, and there was no contest. So the observer only got involved to give the blue card for the dangerous play, which he deemed Mott kind of over-aggressively went.
Yeah, he had nowhere to land when he jumped, but on another player. And I'm most surprised by the Dragon Thrust no contest call there, because it looked like the defender was just going to the space, competing for the space, and beat Mott there.
Rob Robinson on the pull. Austin Lean centers to Erica Bacon. Quickly to Schoenrock and back to Lean. Sierra Barton to Sarah Mextroth. Mextroth trying to go cross field, strings, double team, scores anyway. Andrea DeSabato peeling off, but no match for the veteran, 6'1", Brian Schoenrock.
And I think that was a well-calculated risk that Mextroth took. I'm sure she knew that other defender was peeling off and in the area, but she's played with strings long enough to know that he can posterize anyone and make a play when he needs to, and goodness. Double coverage be darned, right?
Second goal for Schoenrock, second assist for Mextroth, and the first turnover-free point of the game. So we're even at 5. These teams aren't always close at 5-all. They're usually close around 13-all or 14-all. Sometimes the way you get there can be a different type of path.
So we get another look at the Nico Lake, at the Sean Mott attempted reception, and it looked like the dragon thrust defender just undercut Mott as he went up for the disc. Wasn't necessarily looking back or making a play on the disc herself.
Yeah, she wasn't going for it. Quick deep shot off the pull is going to sail out the back. Kind of how the game started for Amp.
Charlie Schuweiler going back to pick up the dragon thrust out of the turn.
So Schuweiler with the disc. Finds Denico underneath. Nice throw, slicing it right past the defender Lake. Caleb Denico has the type of speed to slice and dice a defense with his downfield cutting.
Yeah, and I think it's not just his speed. I think it's his agility and how quickly he can change direction.
Just needs to catch the disc. Coming in hot, but a catch I'm sure he feels he should have made. Calvin Trissolini, a guy that Amp had last year, but not a guy they had at Worlds. So Trissolini
some sort of injury
and Mott are the two adds since the World Club Championships, and Schuweiler appears to have tweaked something. Austin Lean will replace him.
White taken. White is taken.
And Trissolini is going to get a sub, and Nikki Spiva is going to come onto the field.
Nikki Spiva on.
Coming and saying solid one. Okay, let's wait till they're all set, please. Okay, whenever you're ready, ladies.
I expect we'll see Schuweiler again. That deep shot had no chance.
And some costly field position there as that disc didn't go out or come back in to the field of play. And rather than starting with the disc on the goal line, Dragon Thrust is going to have the disc just shy of midfield.
"70 yards from the front of one end zone to the other. 20-yard end zones at each end, and there's a flub. Drop by Blake Trantina, and then Spiva elevates in the end zone. Had position on Denico and takes care of business. Couple turnovers per side, and Spiva has the goal.
Well, once again, we're seeing these throwers make calculated risks in these windy conditions. There may be other defenders peeling off in the area, or they may know that their throw is going to hang more than they want to, but they're throwing to matchups. We saw Mextra throwing to Schoenrock just a few throws ago, and here we see this shot to Spiva. Denico, a great defender, but Spiva has the size advantage there, and frankly, I think he's just straight up got better hops.
You can say he's a better player. It's a good matchup, as most matchups are with Nikki Spiva in this mixed division. Is there anybody that he could go deep against that you wouldn't feel confident in Nikki in the mixed division right now? Is he the best player in the mixed division right now?
I'd like to see a healthy, in-shape Brian Stout, who's playing with Mixtape this year, go head-to-head with Nikki.
20.
Apart from that, I'd have to do some real thinking and reflection to figure out who exactly I could match up with him perfectly well.
Slow White doesn't have Tanner Johnson at the moment. He's a guy that you might take in a one-on-one jump ball matchup. There aren't too many. And the funny thing about Spiva is we're not even talking about the top strength of his game, because he's probably a better thrower than he is a receiver. You would agree?
I think so. I think there are times when he pulls the trigger, as we see a deep shot here.
Lean looking for strings. Well defended by Nardelli.
I think there are times when Nikki resorts to hucking maybe a bit more than he needs to, when there are times he can.
Don't we all, though?
Yeah, but that's the separation, and that can be the margin of difference between winning a marathon point or winning a game and coming up short.
Peleg surveys the field. Squeezes it into the tight space for Bova.
Lots of separation there in the deep space, but you saw Mextroth was the defender giving chase, and not too many throwers want to test her.
Mextroth not chasing now. Just shy of the end zone lands Peleg. Thome Green dropped off and did a pretty nice job slowing things down, and Austin Lean rises up for the interception in the end zone. Austin Lean with little hops.
Stall count was rising. Peleg felt he didn't have any other reset option, and you can see the wind making that simple offhand float so difficult. I think in no wind conditions, that just falls right in the breadbasket where he wants it.
This going back to Austin Lean. Russell on the mark.
Lean swings it to Schoenrock. Thome Green downfield for Barton. And now Mextroth takes the deep shot. Strings versus Nardelli. Strings wins the foot race to the disc.
That's a popular connection here in this first half. Mextroth and Strings, they know each other's strengths. They know when they're throwing to a plus matchup. And Mextroth reading the wind perfectly, Strings attacking, beating his man to the space.
I mean, you've seen the trust on display in this first half. It hasn't worked out every time, but more often than not, Schoenrock has paid off that trust. And that is something that has certainly developed. Both those players joined the team the same year in their 7th years with this Dragon Thrust program.
Strings is always that player to take the top downfield matchup against the other team's top male downfield receiver.
And certainly one of the big losses for Dragon Thrust this year, Jay Drescher, longtime star. We'll see him later today with Minneapolis Sub-Zero, the men's team. That'll have a tough challenge against the world champion San Francisco Revolver. Drescher, after playing mixed for a long time, moves over to the men's division. He's one of the captains of that Sub-Zero team. Nico Lake looking for Nikki Spiva in the end zone, and it's knocked away. Great defense at the last moment from Blake Trantina.
back.
And
Come back to
Spiva
the
may have
time
called a
of the throw,
foul.
please.
We do have a foul call.
I think our view up here in the booth was a little obstructed.
I think I just want to go to the... You're calling a foul?
I'm saying I felt kind of contact on the shoulder where
Okay.
the D happened.
My ruling on that is that the contact was after he had made the D, so there was no foul.
All good.
Was there a foul down there? Okay, 20 seconds.
20.
It will be Dragon Thrust disc. What do you think?
I think the observer ruled correctly there. I did see contact with Spiva's shoulder and forearms, but I think that occurred after Trantina had swatted the disc away.
Trantina, another Dragon Thrust rookie, comes up with a big play on one of the superstars in the division. Tough leaping grab made by Jacob Lean to keep it alive near the sideline.
Yes, Bob. Flat, 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 flat. Girls, all the way tight.
I asked Coach John Gross and longtime captain Austin Lean whether they're basically running all the same stuff that Jake Henderson fostered in the program, or John Gross has brought in a bunch of new things. And they basically said we're running what we've always run and we're adding to it. Deep shot from Lean, not even close, and he knew it immediately.
Here we go, Dragon D. Go, Marty. Yeah, Blake. Yeah, LA.
How does one decide to shave your face that way?
The easy answer is you lose a bet, and you don't actually decide, and it's decided for you.
Sean Mott had a couple steps on Marty Adams. And at 7-6, Amp able to hold after a turnover per side.
Well, once again, we see great field position resulting from hucks that never came back in bounds and trailed out of bounds immediately and weren't able to curve back into the field of play. And Spiva starting to get a little more precise, dialing that one up and hitting Mott on his first try.
So we're still on serve. The game began with back-to-back breaks from Dragon Thrust. They led 3-1. And then back-to-back breaks back. Break being the D-line pulling, getting a turn, and then eventually scoring on the point. Each team has basically had very close to the same number of chances to break during the game. One team is 2 for 10, the other team's 2 for 8. There have been plenty of break chances apiece. I think both coaches probably feel that they've missed a slew of opportunities to really take command of this game.
And it's so difficult when these games turn into wars of attrition. You know, who can win those marathon points? Who can fight back after they've already turned the disc over 3 times?
There's good defense by Luke Ryan. Philadelphia trying to take it to half, and a timeout taken by Stephen Ing with the disc on Dragon Thrust side of the field. About 35 yards away, 30 yards away from halftime. Athletic bid from Ryan. Luke Ryan, originally from Maplewood, New Jersey, a place that pretty important in the history of Ultimate, considering the sport was created there 50 years ago.
Looking forward to the sport's 50th anniversary celebrations at the Club Championships in San Diego in October.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most excited about being in San Diego this fall, there's so many names in the history of Ultimate that we've heard or read, if you're a real Ultimate junkie like we are, and people we haven't had the chance to meet, and we're going to get a chance to meet a lot of those people. Maybe Joel Silver, maybe Ken Dobbins, maybe Steve Mooney. Some of the great females from the 90s, mid-2000s, Boston and the Bay Area and Seattle. That disc is going to go out the back despite the Herculean effort by Spencer DeRoos.
One of the more creative, greatest attempts we've seen, launching himself from the back line and a chicken wing in midair. Didn't quite make it back in bounds.
That might have been the greatest play in 50 years of Ultimate if he had successfully chicken winged it back for a score.
The greatest play of this game for sure.
Wonder what is the greatest play in the 50 years of Ultimate. You should start sourcing social media for that. Deep shot goes up. Neil Hankey to Sarah Mextroth on the money. They make it look easy. It isn't necessarily visually spectacular, but well done to tie the game at 7.
And I'll be interested to see if Dragon Thrust uses one of its timeouts here to stack a line, put some of its stars back out there for a second or third consecutive point, because you definitely want to win this one as you head into halftime. It's a decisive advantage, not insurmountable, but
well, they know they'll receive to start the second half, so if they can break to score, then they got a chance to get the disc again and go up by 2. Mextroth with a big first half and a good put there from Hankey. I mean, Ian, you and I are both on the younger side. You're younger than I am, of course, when it comes to thinking about the 50 years of Ultimate. Do any great highlights immediately come to mind when you're talking about like the greatest plays that have been caught on film in the 50 years?
I think there are, and at the same time, I want to think about what criteria we're using to define greatest plays, right? You know,
whatever you want.
Well, did they have to occur in the semis or finals?
No.
Or could it just be any old pool play game at any club tournament?
It could be Philadelphia Summer League if they're filming it and it's good footage.
Well, you got to think about Josh Zipperstein's grab in the 2009 final. Chain lightning.
Nico Lake looking long. Bobby Roos makes the catch through the contact. And we're on serve 8-7 at the half.
It's good to see him shaking hands with Trantina there. Trantina, I don't think when he left his feet, I don't think there was any kind of dangerous play there. I think both of them were just jockeying for that space. Probably came down on him a little harder than he intended to. Great body control by Roos to make the grab and preserve possession.
We're on serve. Each team has turned it over an identical 18 times in the first 15 points. Amp 2 of 11 on break chances. Dragon Thrust 2 of 8 on break chances. Dragon Thrust will receive to start the second half with another chance to tie. The new coach of Minneapolis Dragon Thrust, John Gross, joins us. And Coach, you got off to a great start, then faltered a little bit. Your thoughts on those first 15 points?
Yeah, I think we've done a good job playing hard defense, which is our goal, and we're definitely a team that's right in this. You know, we came out on fire, which we're excited about, and we want to just get that fire back.
How do you keep your team focused during some of those marathon multi-turnover points?
This whole season we've been talking about wanting it more and really putting in the conditioning, and I think those are times when we're tested in those moments. And we knew this weekend and this tournament was going to test those, and we're mentally ready for it.
John, a transition taken over for Jake. Did Coach Jake Henderson give you any advice leading into this season or maybe into your first ESPN appearance?
Yeah, Jake and I are good friends, and so we talked a fair amount going into the season. We text a decent amount, but he was pretty great about giving advice, but then also saying and knowing I'm a different coach than he is, so I'm putting my flavor on it, and they brought me in to put on my style, and he said I need to embrace that and be ready.
I'm sure you signed up for games that would be just like this, 8-7 at the half, work to do, go get them in the second half.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us,
Okay.
John Gross, the coach of Minneapolis Dragon Thrust. We are on serve, 8-7. Amp leads Dragon Thrust. Big game here at the U.S. Open. Berth in the finals on the line. We are on serve at the half, 8-7. Philadelphia Amp leading Minneapolis Dragon Thrust. Winner of this game will face the winner of Seattle BFG and Boston Slow White, who are playing in the other semifinal at the U.S. Open this afternoon. Not the greatest start for Philly Ambient Toner, but they did recover.
Yeah, their offense got broken right off the bat multiple times. Dragon Thrust wasted no time shooting deep after turnovers, and they were much less challenged by these gusty stadium wind conditions in the first few points.
Took Nikki Spiva and the Amp offense a while to get going, but then Sean Mott connecting with Linda Morris, and that made it 3-2, and then the next 2 points were both Amp breaks to tie it at 3, and then to go up 4-3 to get us back on serve.
You saw that Amp offense and their D-line offense starting to find their stride, working better in these windy conditions.
Sarah Meckstroff, one of her 3 assists in this first half, shooting it deep, same third huck, but it was perfect. The interesting nugget from this first half, Ian, for Amp, they've scored 8 times. 6 of their 8 goals have been male throwing to a male. Dragon Thrust, 6 of their 7 goals have involved a female, either female to male or male to female. And that's a little surprising when we talk about how strong Amp's women are. They are without Anna Thompson. She's dealing with an injury, hasn't played this weekend, but it's still something to think about as we look toward the second half.
And I think it also speaks volumes about the strength of Sarah Meckstroff, not only as a receiver, but also as a thrower for Dragon Thrust, who's found Brian Strings Schoenrock multiple times in the end zone.
This tied it at 7, Hankey to Meckstroff. And then the final point of the half, the only point of the half for Philadelphia to touch the disc and not turn it over at least once. A quick strike. Lake to Roos. 8-7, but on serve. Dragon Thrust will receive to start the second half. Patrick Sherlock joins us down on the field. Back and forth we go. Another great matchup between these two programs. What are your thoughts on what you saw those first 15 points?
It's been really exciting. It doesn't feel like 15 points. I kind of remember the last few because each one's been very intense. There's been great battles within them.
How has your team talked about adjusting to the windy, gusty, abnormal conditions in this stadium?
We think it is less windy than when we started the game. We feel like we can play perfectly fine in it.
Patrick, World Championships a couple weeks ago. I know it was a fun week for you, but ultimately a disappointing one with the final result. How have you seen your team bounce back from that and come out this weekend in Minnesota?
We found the result was great last week. We want to embrace every opportunity to improve and create together, and we got to do that. We would have liked to do it for a few more halves, but we got a lot of good team time together, and we were looking forward to the opportunity to play a little bit more. As you know, we could have played a few more games last week, or a few more were scheduled, and so we're happy we've got this one. Despite more interesting conditions, it's been great to play against another really strong team.
Lastly,
defending world champions before last year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Any adjustments for the second half that you talked about with your team?
I just kind of refining and executing a little bit better what we wanted to do at the start of the game. That's all.
Last thing, can you tell us about this game that your players are playing behind you, bouncing this ball up in the air off the Frisbee?
I think it's called disc ball. They've very good at inventing games. We take a lot of pride in that. people like to play. Again, creating and competing all the time. And I think this is Danielle Walsh's game, so shout out to her because she's injured this weekend and is really driving everyone still.
Proud Wake Forest alum.
Absolutely.
Patrick, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you both.
Best of luck in the second half. AMP leads 8-7. We are on serve, and the second half is on the way from Minneapolis. A triple header of ESPN3 coverage on this Saturday at the U.S. Open. Quick look at the first half scoring summary with AMP ahead 8-7. You see 8 different goal scorers for Philadelphia. Interesting to note for Dragon Thrust, Sarah Mexstroth led the way with 3 assists. Kat Ritzman had 2. The first back-to-back breaks of the game were both thrown by Ritzman. So 5 female assists for Dragon Thrust. Really tight game at the half. About 15 minutes away from the soft cap. 8-7 AMP, second half coming up. Austin Lean, Sarah Mexstroth, Brian Schoenrock, and the rest of Dragon Thrust ready to go on offense to start this second half. Evan Lepler, Ian Toner up in the booth. Looks like they're having more fun down on the field. Here we go, 8-7, Dragon Thrust on offense, and this is an important 0 point here to start the second half. We had 4 breaks in the first 7 points of the game, and then 8 straight holds from the O-lines, although only 2 of those 8 holds were turnover free. Austin Lean staring into this zone defense. Malty McKinnon has been doing a lot of work on that mark there with Carolyn Normile and Andrea DeSabato. And DeSabato may have gotten a piece of that. Greta Regan tried to go over the top, and AMP gets the disc.
Really good active mark.
Deep shot going up, back to live action. Rob Robinson unable to lay out and haul it in.
And unable to connect. This back over to Dragon Thrust.
And AMP's going to be perfectly content just to settle right back into that zone after this turnover. They love clogging those lanes and forcing the Dragon Thrust handlers to swing the disc repeatedly, laterally, before they take any upfield shots.
Well, there are 4 females on the field. And AMP right now has the 3 female players in the cup. And you see the 3 male players kind of lined up across the middle, and I believe that's Raha Mozafari roaming the deep space.
You're absolutely right, and that could present a matchup challenge if someone like Brian Schoenrock is to streak deep by himself.
AMP's done a good job of having active hands in the cup to prevent the deep look. Now AMP doing a nice job matching up downfield, but still kind of playing junky, forcing these extra swings. There's a scuba over the top, nicely done to Emily Regan. Thome Green. Lean comes to it. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this Dragon Thrust team looks when they add Big James Hron back onto the field. Not playing this weekend, but John Gross saying that by October he expects him to be totally back in shape, ready to go. He's in pretty good shape now. He just wasn't available this weekend. One of the things he said, you know, you take a few years off. It takes a while to regain that top gear, both physically and mentally. But he said Hron is so competitive that if he gets beaten in practice once or twice by one of the younger guys, that just fuels his motor even more. Nice decision there, good patience near the goal line. And after 1 turnover per side, it's a hold to even the score at 8.
Yeah, Brian Schoenrock not afraid to be physical there, not shying away from any physicality. You saw the Philly defenders trying to body him as he made those cuts to the cone, and ultimately he just beat his matchup to the mark. And there were a couple cuts earlier in the sequence where he just had to kind of put his shoulder down and fight through the contact to earn that yardage in the red zone.
Game high 4 goals for Strings. Austin Lean into double figures for the weekend in assists. There's John Gross. Lived in Madrid, Spain for a couple years. Played with a club team there called the Quixotes. When Gross started playing Ultimate in high school in the Twin Cities, all high school Ultimate was mixed. I think for him and a lot of these players, that's what fostered the love of mixed Ultimate in their formative Ultimate years. Spiva beginning this point downfield in a horizontal stack. He's on the perimeter. Underneath is Morse. Now Spiva coming across, and Morse finds him with Denacor defending. Sneaking up the line goes Bobby Roos. And now Linda Morse in the end zone. Cool, calm, collected offense that time from Philadelphia Amp.
Yeah, that's exactly how they want that offense to work, attacking out of the side stack, keeping space on that far sideline. So we saw Spiva streaking all the way across the field out of the side stack to get that underneath cut. Great job attacking the upline space by Roos, and then Morse all alone in the end zone.
Patrick Sherlock has to be wondering, why don't we do that every point in the first half? It's back-to-back turnover-free 0 points from Amp. Point to make it 8-7 and take half. And now 9-8. Bobby Roos involved in the scoring throw on each. The goal to take half, the assist to start the second. Steve Rosso uncorks the pull at 9-8. We're just under 9 minutes away from soft cap. When the clock expires, the end of the point that's going on, you add 2 to the higher team score, and that becomes the destination. If the goals were just coming quick and clean, there'd be a game to 15, but it's hard to imagine we're going to get to 15 unless one of these teams really turns it on. Amp trying to take a mistake of the reset, take advantage of that mistake. Normile unable to catch the little flip from DeRoos. Hankey surveys. Foam green to the middle of the field for Barton. And she throws it away. Does it feel to you like things are teetering a little bit for Dragon Thrust here?
Definitely, they don't look confident with their D-line offense. They don't look confident with their traditional offensive unit. We're not seeing the same pace and spacing that we saw earlier in the first half.
Came out wobbly from Barton. May have been deflected on the mark. No, just a wobbly release. Not great grip on that disc. So Patrick Sherlock speaks to this AMP D line that's looking for its third break of the game. Each team has 2 breaks so far, and they all came in the first 7 points. Well, last year, obviously, at the U.S. Open, Seattle Mixtape started its season with a win. They won everything last year. U.S. Open, Pro Flight, and Nationals. The last 5 U.S. Open winners and the last 5 Nationals winners. Each of the last 2 years in the mixed division. Team that won the U.S. Open went on to win it in October. Of course, 3 years ago, Ellipsis, the team from Melbourne, Australia, chalked everybody. Dragon Thrust had a pretty nice run at Nationals, but it's been a while. And Dragon Thrust has, had some U.S. Opens on their home turf and not been able to steal the win. Looking long on the reset, Rosso, perfectly done to DeRoos. First break of the second half, 10-8 AMP.
And that's also AMP's largest lead of this game. This 2-goal margin late in the game. With the clock ticking down, we're getting closer and closer to the soft cap.
What do you most like about that play out of the timeout?
I liked how the initiation and the reset was upfield. A lot of times, teams are content to just take a backfield reset just to reset the stall count, but that play call dictated for a nice front of the stack gut shot. Move the disc up the field with the reset of the stall count and the reset of the throwing angle. It's a very aggressive play call and well executed.
On the 14th break chance of the game, AMP converts for the 3rd time. They're 3 of 14 on breaks, and they lead 10-8. Less than 5 minutes away from soft cap. Peleg unleashes the pull. The backhand bends toward the middle of the field for Schuweiler, who centers to Bacon.
Pick call.
Adams will keep the disc, a pick in the middle of the field. Pretty basic vertical stack offense here from Dragon Thrust. Initiating with that line of cutters in the middle of the field, trying to create cutting lanes on both the near side and the far side.
Tight backs! 4! Yes, Max! Yes, Max!
Excellent dump defense there by Max Charles.
Attack! Near!
Charles, a guy who previously played for AMP but got hurt, tore his ACL 2015, making his return this year. Deep shot for Ritzman. There was certainly contact. Was there a foul? Nope. Ben Peleg, his presence was enough to disrupt the timing and force the incompletion. What do you think, Ian?
I think this was a clean block. He's chasing it down. Ritzman had position, and he just comes through, gets his fingertips on the disc.
Looking long, the other end, Stephen Ing, unable to get there. I feel like those types of throws are the thing that are keeping AMP from really creating separation in this game. Just the quick hucks that aren't connecting. Is that a lack of patience in your mind, or do you think that's the mindset? What you got?
I think it's a lack of patience, but I also think it's dictated by the personnel that are on the field. They don't have all of those D-line offense stalwarts that they might normally have, able to march things down the field confidently with as many throws as might be required.
Well, as soon as that disc left Ellie Shordahl's hands, she wanted it back. She was shaking her head before the disc hit the ground. Shordahl, a second-year member of the Dragon Thrust program, just 21 years old. Normile to Charles. When Amp shows the willingness to grind, they've been really successful.
Good, Marty. Nice pressure. Hey, who's there? Let's go.
They're around to Nardelli.
Good, Marty. Yes, Ellie.
Breaking the mark. Nardelli near the sideline. Ruled inbounds by the observer, and that's a Philly score. What a play by Eric Nardelli.
What a play by Nardelli to toe the line, but also what vision by Pellig to see that small window on the break side. Goodness, that was close, but it looked like the disc was in his left hand with his toe inbounds just before he put that body weight over the edge. Great concentration by Nardelli. And again, you've also got to give credit to Pellig for seeing that window just before the mark had come in and settled. That cross-field shot, and you hear the horn going off, signaling that the soft cap is now on.
It'll go on after this next point by the letter of the law. But that's back-to-back breaks for Amp, and I'll tell you, I think it's been a pretty well-observed game. That was a very close call that the Orange got right. Sam Wood and Steve Haynes, the observers for this first mixed semifinal at the 2018 U.S. Open.
And it's great to see them having such a positive impact on the game. You know, having just witnessed the comparatively powerless game advisors at the World Flying Disc Federation World Ultimate Club Championships, when you've got confident, knowledgeable, authoritative, decisive observers able to issue clear rulings and keep things moving, it just makes such a difference to the viewing experience and the competitive environment for the players.
I think you and I are on the same page on that. There's a block downfield easily for Luke Ryan. I think there's a large portion of the international ultimate community that still disagrees and still prefers to not have any observers or game advisors or referees, but you know, things will gradually evolve, and there will be a gradual consensus, and what the majority of the community wants long term, you think, is how the game will evolve.
I think we have a foul call that's uncontested. This will stay with that.
I think American players absolutely want a third party.
Legal shot, put it in play.
That throw did not keep its edge. Spencer DeRoos knew it immediately.
Looked more like a wet disc on the release than anything, with the disc just wobbling out of his fingers immediately.
Schoenrock, good gainer underneath. Flips it downfield for Hankey. Regan back to Lean. Hear the fire call as Thomgreen dishes to the middle. Hankey shoots it deep. Meckstroth, she's got it. Just shy of the goal line. How did she make that catch? Looked like she reached around her defender, Malty McKinnon. Schoenrock pays it off again. Mextroff delivers another assist. It's 11-9. We're playing the 13 in this first mixed semifinal.
Well, another spectacular grab by Mextroff. Just a casual one-hand reach with the defender on her back hip. And then Schoenrock fakes out his defender, takes his cut to the cone, and then acts like he's just going to hang out on that out-of-bounds sideline, and then turns right back around after he steps out of bounds. That inside lane. Mextroff on the same page with Schoenrock there, knew that cut was coming. And the lane was open and she took it.
So that breaks a 3-0 run. We were tied at 8-all, and then Amp scored 3 in a row to make it 11-8. Four assists for Mextroff, 3 of them to Schoenrock. She also threw 1 in the first half to Tavis Layton.
During that point, we're playing game to 13.
Look at the 4 female O-line for Philly Amp.
Jacob Blaine on the ball for Dragon Crest.
Anna Thompson, who had a breakout Club Nationals last year, just 21. She'll be a senior at University of Pennsylvania this fall. Won't be 22 until next May. Not playing here. They're hopeful to get her back. She had a foot problem at U24 World Championships in January, and now is dealing with a lingering back issue. Patrick Sherlock didn't seem too concerned about it, as Amp unable to convert. I think the biggest thing for Thompson from an injury standpoint, they want to make sure that she doesn't rush back too soon and it lingers even longer. So they're being very cautious and conservative with their 21-year-old superstar.
Smart approach early in the season, so much left to play for.
Hey, we're inside to start. We're inside to start. Hey, we're inside. Hey, we're inside. We're inside. Around. Oh, that was pretty.
Not ready. Buy your next.
Jacob Lean moves the disc.
Buy no back. Nothing back.
Here's Bacon to Denicourt. This would be a huge 70-yard march from the Dragon Thrust D-line in a game to 13 to get it back within 1. Pat Niles just has to boost it, but he's got Denicourt going. This could work. Denicourt unable to time his jump.
He and Spive have been matching up all game long, and you saw him tap his chest there as he looked back, indicating that he felt he should have been the one to make that play. Great pressure by Spive on the backside, forcing Denicourt to go up early.
Great job.
Yeah, can you talk about that dynamic defensively, where even if you don't get the disc, how the pressure you put on someone in that situation? Maybe we'll see it here. Niles comes up with a block, and he got disc on Sean Mott.
And Normile just completely unmarked. And I don't think the defender even got a hand on that one. That was just a stone-cold doink from Mott.
That's my miss and Mott's miss.
Looks like Amp will stick with the 7 they've got. Erica Bacon to pick up for Dragon.
Tough turnover there for Dragon Thrust.
Mott's happy to get that one right back for his team, essentially ending up with the same field position.
Ends up being an Amp hold, which gives them a 3-goal lead. They're within 1 of closing it out. A couple costly missed opportunities for Minneapolis. after all that. Easy score for Sean Mott from Nikki Spiva. See Nikki with a New Orleans Pelicans hat. Spent some time living down in Louisiana, where he helped coach the Tulane program. We'll see Greg Cousins, one of his proteges from Tulane, with the Minneapolis Sub-Zero team coming up against San Francisco Revolver. And then the primetime game, third game of the day on ESPN 3, 8:30 Eastern Time, Raleigh Ring of Fire and New York Pony. And both those teams have taken interesting routes to the semifinals of the U.S. Open, both this weekend and over the past few weeks overall. Of course, Jimmy Mickle and Chris Kocher for Pony were going against Raleigh Ring of Fire with Australia's Colony a couple weeks ago at the World Championships.
Ring of Fire is going to be missing some of the pieces that they had at that tournament. So many players gone competing at the Masters World Championships.
Must score for Dragon Thrust. They need a hold and then 3 breaks to win. Mextroff drops the hammer. And there's great defense from Ryan Flamberg. Kind of a desperation decision here from Mextroff.
Well, a desperation decision in the context of the game and the clock winding down, but there was no stall count, no high pressure situation. She absolutely could have pocketed that one and gone to a reset.
Or waited for something else to develop. One of the cutting lanes downfield. Ant gives it right back though.